Hello, I'm Coach Janet, and I'm excited you've joined me here today. Today, we're going to talk about some of the ways that we can better strengthen ourselves when we go to these fun family events, such as graduation parties, family reunions, and other family gatherings, or other gatherings with friends or coworkers, where there's people there who kind of get under our skin and they know how to trigger us. And so today, we're going to talk about some tools that can help us better prepare ourselves to respond in a more positive and helpful way. So if you want to join along and participate, I know you'll get more out of it because I know I do. And you can just start with a pen and paper, or if you want to, you can grab some scissors, paint pens or paint brushes, some paints if you have them. If you don't have paints, you can also just grab colored pencils, colored crayons, or just use the pen and paper. But today we're going to talk about some really fun, helpful tools that can give you more power and strengthen you. And that's what I like when I'm around those people who know how to get under my skin, is taking my power back. And that's what this is all about. So let's switch here to our other camera and we'll get started. So what we're going to draw today first is we're going to start by drawing the person who triggers you and the one that kind of really causes you grief. And then we're going to put them in a small box up here at the top of our page. And this person, we're going to draw them with kind of a snarly face. And this can be anyone in your life that has, causes you trouble or kind of gets under your skin and just really kind of wreaks havoc. And they're going to be up here, kind of not a happy face. And then down here, we're going to draw ourselves. And this is just a real simple picture. And I have long hair and I often have it braided. So I just draw my little self like this. I want to be happy, so I give myself a smile. And then because I have long hair, I just give myself a little braid down here. And that's it, as simple as can be. And then I just draw a little body here. And then we are going to show how this person kind of is like a puppeteer, controlling our emotions and our moves. So we're kind of down here, all uncomfortable. And when this person, whether it be a family member, a friend, or a coworker, when they do and say things that trigger us, it is as if this is the puppeteer. They have little lines coming down, controlling our movements. And we get kind of awkward and miscombobulated. And that's how it is. And, this might even be an ex-spouse. And I know that my ex-spouse used to really trigger me a lot. And I would respond, he would say something, and I would respond. And then I would get mad at him, and he would get mad at me. And that was just kind of the way things went. And so, just take your little paintbrush or your colors and, color your pictures in. But I also found that when I started implementing some of these tools, I felt I had a lot more power, and not only in our relationship, because I quit being triggered, I also found that I had power in other relationships. And that is a good thing. And not that I was, I didn't start being mean and attacking, but I just didn't let their opinions control me. And I did not react in an out of control way or a negative way to the things that were said to me. And I could just put those thoughts aside. And we'll talk more about that in the next part of the lesson as it comes up. Some of our tools. Now I'm going to paint my dress purple because that is one of my favoriteest colors ever. I just love pinks and purple. The truth of the matter is I love all colors. But I think this little me loves this purpley pinky color. So just, do what works. And my watercolors are kind of dry today, but watercolors are beautiful and they're fun and they can blend together and make more beautiful colors. And one thing I love about watercolors is they remind me that there's beauty in the process, not in perfection. And sometimes I paint outside the lines. Yeah, it's okay. And sometimes everything within the lines don't get painted, and that too is okay. Now, our little friend up here, you can just imagine whoever you want. It typically triggers you when you're at family gatherings or whatever event you want to paint. Or if it's somebody at work at a meeting, especially if you're going to be going to conferences and traveling with this person over the summer. I mean, there's a lot of people probably that you could choose from. But just choose one person. And I'm going to paint this person green because what I've learned is that green is the color of jealousy. And I think that people who attack me and, try to control me and things, I know some of those people are jealous. And so I'm just going to put this little person in green. And just when I see that, I will recognize and remember this is more about them and it's not about me. And that's good information to have. Wrong color. Totally wrong color. And that's okay because it's watercolor and we can just blend it in with something else. So we're going to paint our little puppeteer here and a little us. And then I'm going to set this aside so it can be drying. And just do a little mouth there, kind of yelling. Because that's how some people just are. And they try to control us. We'll never quite measure up. And I've been there before. So let's switch back on cameras. Okay. Okay, we're going to bring this back for just a second. And we're going to add a couple of journal prompts. So as you think about this, and this is something that you can, if you want to pause the video and write in your journal, or do it at another time. But what is a typical comment or action that this person from this person that emotionally triggers you into a negative response. So let me read that. What is the typical comment or action from this person that emotionally triggers you into a negative response? And it's good to just pause and think about what it is they do or say. Another prompt is, what and how do you feel when this person triggers you, emotionally and physically? So take those little prompts and give it some thought. And as we think about things and we see what things trigger us, then we know that's where we need to do some work ourselves. So first thing we're going to start off with is tool number 1, and this is going to be hot potato. Now, when you were a kid, did you ever play the game hot potato? Whether you had an imaginary hot potato or a real one, and you tossed it back and forth, and whoever caught the potato or maybe an object pretending to be a hot potato, you had to give it away or get rid of it as fast as you could because it's burning you. And then the next person who gets it, they have to throw it as fast as they can. And the object is to keep the hot potato moving around the people as long as you can. Well, many times, I don't know if you've heard the saying, hurt people hurt people. So when you're hurt, you tend to hurt other people. And this is kind of like hot potato. When you have that pain, that emotional pain, oftentimes we try to throw that to somebody else. And then they get it and they throw it onto somebody else. It's kind of like when you have a bad day at work and you come home and kick the dog who goes and bites the cat. That's not good and that's not healthy. And so what we're going to do is we're going to draw our hot potato, and that is going to remind us that what we can do is we can, instead of tossing our pain to somebody else, we can just hold on to it and release it without giving it to someone else and causing someone else hurt. Because it doesn't do any good to hurt somebody else when we're hurting. Because it sure doesn't take away our pain. And so when you're with your family and somebody's hurting and throwing their pain on you, you know, just kind of think of it as that's what they're doing, is they're offloading their pain onto you. And you can choose to give that pain to somebody else, or you can say, nope, the pain stops here. And I'm not going to pass that on to someone else because I know what it feels like. And I don't like it when someone else drops their pain on me, so I'm not going to drop my pain onto somebody else. Now, as we go through these tools, I want to share with you a quote by Viktor Frankl. And he says that between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. And so think of that when you're with these people who trigger you. It's in your response that you can own that freedom. And so kind of keep that in mind as we go forward here. And these tools that we're going to talk about, they create the space between stimulus, which is the other person, and our response. So I'm going to do a little bit of orange here. paint your potato and your fire any way you want. And if you have a better way that you prefer to demonstrate, fire and hot potato, go ahead. Do what works best for you and helps you visualize this the very best. And there's no wrong way to paint these. There's no right way. Just do, just be, just explore, just have fun. And when we have fun, that's when we have greater growth. And I like to get my paper wet, so my colors kind of get mixed up. And I'm going to add a little bit of red in there because we know fire is hot. I know blue is kind of a hotter fire, but red, I think, looks hotter. Okay, so there's my hot potato. And so I'm going to kind of do a visual on these, and I'm going to remember when so you've got a family gathering coming up, and if someone's throwing their paint around, I'm going to remember just to drop it and let it stop right there. So, and then our next little tool is going to be a really fun one. And this one is very powerful. And it is the light switch. And so just draw yourself a little light switch here. And it does not have to be pretty, and it does not have to be perfect. And just draw a little lever down here, a little switch. Mm-hmm. I kind of drew my little picture wrong, and that's perfectly okay, because we are not here for perfection. We're just here to help ourselves learn. And this is on up here, and this is off down here. And I know there were times in my past when I had someone who would really like to trigger me and would say awful things. And it got to the point where I could kind of see through them. And so it would be just like turning off the light switch. And as these things would come, it'd be just kind of like, I would just pretend to like visualize and just like switch off my hearing. And I could still hear what's being said, but I knew what was being said did not apply to me. And I knew it wasn't true. And it's, I don't know if you remember watching The Incredibles, but it's just kind of like putting a force field around myself. And even though the stuff still came down, it didn't apply to me. And I did not allow that to hurt me anymore. And that is a very powerful place to be, because you can't always leave the situation where you're in. And you're just hearing these things going on and on. And if you sit there and believe them, it's painful. But if you can just tell yourself, yep, that's not the way it is, then you can be very empowered. And I would encourage you to practice these tools, especially during these situations, because I know in my past, before I learned these tools and had these like superpowers, all of these hard things and hard conversations would just leave me frozen. And I was unable to stand up for myself. I was unable to respond. And I would just take it, and I would just be flooded with feelings of shame and guilt and things like that. And these feelings of shame and guilt, just because you're feeling them and experiencing them, is not a sign that you really should be feeling them. And I know for years I've struggled with feeling shame and guilt, and it's because of different experiences that I had as a child. And that's something to remember, is that our childhood experiences can cause us to respond to people in a way that we probably normally, I don't want to say shouldn't, but we normally wouldn't if we had healthy emotional boundaries. But because we don't always get those in childhood, where we experience things that don't allow those boundaries to form, we then experience shame and guilt. And just because you experience shame and guilt doesn't mean you're bad or wrong. It just means that there's some programming that needs to be kind of readjusted. So, whenever someone's saying stuff that you don't like and it doesn't work for you, just remember you can just turn off the volume and just kind of put your hand up by your ear and pretend to be just flipping that switch and saying, nope, not today. The light is off. So, another powerful tool is breathing. To demonstrate that, I am creating a pair of lungs. And I don't even know what lungs really look like, but for my purposes today, this is what they're going to look like. And with our lungs, we can do some beautiful, very centering breathing. And when you control your breathing, you can totally regulate your entire nervous system and calm that monster when you feel all of that anger and angst. And some things that you can think of and say as you're breathing are, this too shall pass. This will soon be over. They know not what they speak. And I know there are times when I've been around people saying things, telling me things that about me that are not true. And I did not feel I was in a position that I could just leave. So it would be like, nope, that's not it. And I would just sit there and breathe and just kind of take it. But I knew that my story and their story did not match. So let yourself breathe. And even if you have to say, yes, this is painful in this moment, I don't like sitting here listening to this, just breathe your way through. And when you feel your gut tighten up, do deep, deep belly breathing and loosen that tightness up and loosen up that tight, tight gut. And you will be surprised at the power that can come to this with this. Now, if you can, practice this beforehand, because this kind of breathing does not work for everybody. And some people it absolutely does not work for, and it can make things worse. So if you find that trying to control your breathing or something makes the situation worse, try it in a low stress environment. Try different types of breathing, like, that we have, let me come back to the camera here for a minute. Okay, let me come back here. Okay, so there's like box breathing, where you can breathe in a count of like 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. And that's box breathing. It's the same. In 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds, out 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds, and then you can increase it up to like 6 and 8 seconds. Another good way to help regulate your nervous system is to breathe in for 4 seconds, and then breathe out for 8. If you can double the time that you breathe out, that can also be very calming. But you need to practice this in a low stress environment to see how your body reacts, because we're all unique and we all react to things in different ways. But if you can add that, it can be really helpful too. So the next thing, and I have often thought of this, is when you think of that person, that you're in a situation where that person is being mean to you and triggering you, think of this person as a baby and think what happened to them between now and when they were a sweet little baby to cause them to be so hurtful. Because as we've said, hurt people hurt people. And we all, most of us, almost all of us, come into this life as a sweet little baby. And what happened to this person between this sweet little baby and to who they are now that's causing you so much grief and pain? Did they receive a lot of pain as a child? You know, we don't know. Maybe you do know, maybe you don't know. But if somebody is that, I don't know. I don't know words. If someone's creating that much havoc for you in your life, it's likely because they have had a lot of painful experiences too. And they experienced traumas, and very likely they were traumas early in their childhood where they had no way to defend themselves. And so they become hyper defensive and they attack others. There are a lot of different personality disorders and things like that that often come from early childhood abuse or childhood trauma. It doesn't even have to be abuse, it can be just different traumas or interpretation of things. Our little brains are not fully developed, and so they just make sense of things the only way they know how to. And usually, what they make sense of is, I am bad. It's not the other person that's bad, it's usually me that's bad. And that's hard for little guys. And when little kids experience that, they can often grow up being very unhappy people. And that's very sad for them and those who are left to react with them. Yeah. So when this person is attacking you and triggering you, just reflect on one time they were a sweet little baby. Now, this next one, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but we call this one Take the Mic. Because sometimes there are people that keep telling the same old story about you time and time and time again. And every time the family gets together, they're there with their old-fashioned microphone telling the same same old song and dance. And it gets really old, doesn't it? If you experience that, then you know what I'm talking about. And so, when this happens, just remember, they're kind of in a dazed state. Think of them just kind of going on, singing that same old song. And they never learned anything new. They never noticed that you've changed, you've moved on. They just keep you stuck in that same little trap box. So just let them go on and on. And you don't have to be a part of that. Because I know there's times in my life where I have felt stuck, and I've always blamed, other people in my life. Well, if this wouldn't have happened, or if I would have had something better or a better person in my life, then I wouldn't be stuck right now. And the more I tell my little sob story, the more I'm the one here with kind of dazed, googly eyes, just going on about the past. And it's time we move out of our past. And if there's people kind of stuck in the past, their same old song and dance, even if it's about you, don't let them have that power. Take it back. And you can just say, nope, not doing that. So just think, yep, they might be singing that same old song and dance, but I am going to be doing something different. And I want to let my actions show a different story. And that's where your power is. They might have that same old song and dance that they keep telling about you, but when your actions and the things that you do are different, then they're just wrong, and other people can see they're wrong. And you don't have to be limited by their opinions of you, because what they're saying is just that. It's merely an opinion. And check out these watercolors. Yes, they are all kind of running together, but that's the beauty of it. That's kind of how these people are when they're dazed. They just kind of, yeah. So don't be a blah, and don't you get into the same song and dance mode about yourself or about anyone else. The power is in doing something different, doing something new. So, do you remember the old Charlie Brown? I love, love, love Snoopy and Charlie Brown. And when I was a kid, I used to really enjoy reading the Charlie Brown comics. And do you remember when the one about Lucy, when she was, the doctor is in? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. Is we're going to have a little doctor's stand, just like Lucy had. And it's going to be our complaint department. And the thing of it is, our complaint department is closed because we are not going to be a part of all of this going on and all of this whining and moaning. And that's one thing I did when I went through this divorce is I didn't have people, hardly anybody at all, that I talked to about this. I had a counselor, or as My friend calls it a paid friend, and I talked to her because I didn't want to be saying, oh, blah, blah, blah. And then my friends would be jumping to my defense. And I wanted non-biased, good input from somebody who was not my friend, who would tell me if I was off or if this was, yeah, that's not right. So with your complaints and all these issues, don't be going off on other people about it. And don't be complaining about this person who's causing you grief, because when we do that, it just causes more angst and trouble. So make sure that your complaint department is closed and that people know it. And when people know that your complaint department is closed, they'll get the message to not bring their complaints to you, and that you're not going to put up with talking bad about other people. And when you do that, when you have the strength of character to kind of put good stuff out there, you're going to be amazed at how good things are and how that changes the energy of your whole life. Because I know that when I don't complain about stuff, things get better. And that's where true power is we attract what we talk about. Somebody once said that when you complain about what you don't like and what you don't want, it's like praying for that thing that you don't want, because you're just giving it your energy and attracting more of it. So keep your complaint department closed. And I think I'm going to add some bright yellow to that one so that we know that it is closed. And when our complaint department is closed, that's when we can find the greatest joy and happiness. So these tools are powerful. And I know before I learned these tools, when I would be in a situation where I was being attacked or whatever, I would just shut down. I would just shut down and I couldn't think, and it was not a good situation. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut these out. And one thing I want you to think about is if in the past where you felt that you've been triggered and you didn't feel like you had any power, taking these actions and even just thinking about this stuff. I know with me, I feel empowered and I feel much better. And then when I'm in these difficult situations, I feel like I have a choice. And I might not be able to leave the choice. And like with my on-off switch, I'm not going to say to the person, oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I'm just turning you off. I'm just thinking that to myself, but it gives me power. And I have a choice. And so to me, that's been very helpful. And remembering this person was once a sweet little baby, and then something's gone wrong somewhere along the way. And it makes me sad for that person. That doesn't mean I have to tolerate what they're doing or what they're saying, and I don't have to believe what they're doing or saying, but it just helps me just see them in a different light. And that's a good thing to be able to do. Now, these tools, two of my favorites, and so what we're going to do Let's bring this back. Our little puppeteer controlling us. And when we take and think of the puppeteer, that person who's triggering us, and remember them as a little baby who was once sweet before they were hurt, it breaks those bands of the puppeteer. And when we turn off what they're saying, that's another powerful way to break the bonds of the puppeteer. And all of these 6 tools, practice them. Look at this, visualize it. And that way, when you are in the situation, and you're around these people and these triggering conversations or activities happen, you're going to have the strength to maintain your cool and not be triggered. And in not being triggered is where we truly find our freedom. And we are really able to take back our power. And that's what this is about, is us having the power to control ourselves rather than giving that to someone else. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope you can utilize these tools because they really are very powerful. And if you are interested in learning more about some of these tools to help with various aspects of your life, feel free to email me, or you can take the little survey on this webpage and reach out and we can talk sometime to see if you want to work together and if we will be a good fit. So enjoy these tools, and the power of the tools is they enable us, they give us the tools so that we can enjoy that time with family more. We don't have to be worried and stressed and afraid of going into it. So hope you have a great day and have a fantastic summer. This is Coach Janet saying goodbye.